A very warm good afternoon to all of you. I, Dr. Rafat Fatima, welcome you all to Technical Session 1 of the 3-day National Seminar on Indian Knowledge System, Interdisciplinary Insights and Contemporary Discourse, organized by the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences under the supervision of our head, Professor Zeba Aqil ma'am. I welcome you all to this session in which I request all the participants to be please ready for their with their papers. The session is chaired by Professor Dr. Yogesh Pratap Singh, Vice Chancellor, National University, Tripura, and co-chaired by Professor Dr. Zeba Aqil, Ma'am, Head Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University. Now I'll be inviting the participants one by one. At number 1, I request Miss Tapti Roy. The title of her paper is Brahminical Scriptural Sanctions and Hindu Widow Remarriage in 19th Century Bengal. Miss Tapti Roy, are you there? I think Ms. Tapti Roy is not with us. So at number 2, I'll invite Mrs. Ashwini Sachin Salunke. Her topic is Beyond Myth, Contemporary Insights into Global Politics and Diplomacy through the Lens of Mahabharat. So Mrs. Ashwini, are you there with us?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible. You may proceed.
Yes.
You may
Yes,
start.
ma'am. I'm sharing my screen. Ma'am, actually, I'm sharing the screen, but only the host can share this meeting. I'm sharing the screen, but is unable to share my screen.
Okay, we are letting you in.
Yes.
Ashwini.
Can I proceed without the PPT?
So just wait for a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you can share.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Mm.
मिस अश्विनी आप अपना वीडियो ऑन कर लीजिए.
Yes, ma'am. Wait. Documents. Ma'am, actually, I'm sharing my screen with the mobile, but it is showing that only the PDF or image can be shared, and my PPT is in PPT form.
So, so you can start presenting without the PPT. If you're
Okay, ma'am.
comfortable, you can present. You can start
Yes,
presenting.
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Miss,
Good afternoon, everyone.
please switch on your video. Just switch on your video.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashwini Sarunke. My title of the paper is Beyond Myth, Contemporary Insights into the Global Politics and Diplomacy Through the Lens of Mahabharata. There is a very famous saying that a nation that doesn't honor its past has no future. In my research paper, I have included the various incidences and the many tactics, strategies that used in the Mahabharata that we can use even today for the international relations and the diplomacy. The Mahabharata is one of the greatest epic of the history that has a very valuable insights such as the diplomacy, tactics, politics, then the strategies, defense, etc. So, diplomacy is one of the very vital tool for the international relations. So we can learn a lot of lessons from the Mahabharata. For example, in my research paper, I have included the various incidences from the Kurukshetra war that we can use as a that we can also use in the in today's era also. So in our ancient epics and the ancient Puranas or the Vedas, we have the very principles like the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Jaga Kalyan, and the Jana Kalyan. So in the Mahabharata war, we can see that the Krishna were using the very tactics and the deception, strategic autonomy, then the cultural diplomacy, how he can use the diplomacy to avoid the war. But after that, he said that the war sometimes justified because if our ultimate aim is the dharma, then for that dharma, even if we have to do the unethical things and the unethical things and the immorality things, then that is also justified. So these research papers will these research papers will say that the Mahabharata can be in my research papers. I have find out that how the Mahabharata can be how Mahabharata can be used to redevelop our foreign policy and improve the diplomacy with the good values and the pragmatic solutions and the realism. In our political science, we have the concept like the realism. So in that also, he said that for the Raj Dharma, there is no ethics and the ethics and morality. Only the national interest is supreme. In the same way, in Mahabharata also, when in the Kurukshetra war, when for killing the Karna, for killing the Duryodhan, Bhishma, the Krishna uses many deceptions and many unethical things because the Krishna was in the side of dharma and the Kauravas in the adharma. So for to beat the adharma, that he uses the very unethical things and all. So as we can say that even the Kautilya's Arthashastra, he has cited the many shlokas from the Mahabharata that are still relevant today. After that, we can say that someone says that Mahabharata is it is fairy tales. It is not. It is only the Katha and Ityas. So in my research paper, I have given the images, examples, and the that all the images, examples of the how the Mahabharata is a history and not the Katha. So, for example, the ancient cities from the Magad, after that the Gandhar, after that the whatever city is mentioned in the Mahabharata that is still there today, Kurukshetra, etc. After that, the Dwarka city and all, how the archaeological survey has find out that the potteries, then the coins, that copper plates, after that the terracotta plates, etc. during the Mahabharata's period. After that, in this research papers, I have said what are the characteristics of Mahabharata. After that, how the international relations and diplomatically we can use a war. For example, I have given the example for the Karna. The Karna was in the side of the Adharma. So when the Karna's rath was stuck on the mud, the Krishna advises him, the Arjuna, that we have to kill them. So, according to the morality and ethical ways, that is immoral things to kill the unarmed person, but only the Arjun had a chance to kill him in that appropriate time. So the Arjun killed him. So according to Krishna, if enemies are in front of you, you have to kill at any condition. So in history, we have an example of the Prithviraj Chauhan that in the first war of Tarain, he just leaves the Muhammad Ghori because of he was armless. But when the that Muhammad Ghori came back in the second war of Tarain, he killed the Prithviraj Chauhan very brutally. He doesn't care about the ethics. So we can say that if the in the first war of Tarain, if the Prithviraj Chauhan killed the Muhammad Ghori without seeing the ethics and morality, our today's condition was be better. So he doesn't care about the ultimate dharma and ultimate that truth for the that country. He just see our his own morality that it is very unethical to kill him. So if the Prithviraj Chauhan was aware of the Mahabharata, he doesn't do the same mistake. So according to Krishna, that if enemy is in front of even today also, if we can use because we have the China, Pakistan, and the other things. So we can use that things that if the enemy is in front of you, you have only that chance to kill him. Second example is like that the Dronacharya also killed with the unethical way. So Dronacharya is a guru of the Kauravas and Pandavas, but he has a very blind love for his son. He gave all the tactics, he gave all the weapons, all the things, teachings to the Ashwadhama. But he was in the side of Adharma. He doesn't give him the teachings how to use them and how to use them. So in today's also we have the many politicians, many big persons that their sons and the daughters are not capable to carry their that position, but then also they are pushing their son only in the politics and other things. So from the Mahabharata also we can say that if you are the king, if you have to follow the Raj Dharma, so your ultimate aim to follow that, not to push your son and daughters in that the same field, but you have to see the what is the good for the nation, what is good for the rashtra, and what is good for the nation. So if your son is not capable, you have to give throne to the other person. After that, and we can say that there are the other examples also that I have mentioned in. So in conclusions, I can say that in the Mahabharata, we can redevelop our foreign policy and diplomacy. And if we want, there is no doubt that we can become the superpower. But there is no doubt that we can become the superpower. But we have a chance to become the Vishwa Guru if only if we can decipher the Puranas, Mahabharatas, Ramayanas, Vedas, because there are the many scriptures, many shlokas, and many incidences are given in our ancient things. That if we decipher that, we requires very less time to become Vishwaguru, because today's also the world leaders are hoping from India that India can become the superpower is not there is nothing but Vishwaguru, because today's also the Nalanda University is known that that was very that born during that time many thousands and lakhs of books were born. So India has a potential. So India can become the Vishwa Guru only if we can decipher all these things like the Vedas, Puranas, Mahabharatas, and we can find out the pragmatic solutions from this. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ashwini.
Sir, kindly use the podium.
Dr. Ashwani, thank you for your enlightening presentation. I have one question for you.
Yes.
How will you interpret
Yes, sir.
Mahabharata in delivering, or you can say, devising foreign policy and security policy towards China, for that matter? Can you elaborate on this slightly?
Actually, sir, China, there is no doubt that China, in future, India-China war will happen. So if and maybe the Pakistan will be the reason for this, because China is very interested in the Ladakh, and if POK is also investments are there. So there is a maybe the war will be not full-fledged, but the other things of the cyber security warfare will be there, and India should be prepared for this, because we cannot trust the other that America and the Russia. We are just making the friends with the Russia. But because the strategic autonomy, we should be very independent to fight with the China, because right now we cannot fight with the China because strategically, after that, militarily, economically, we are very lax behind. But if we become the and that we can make the strategies to beat the China. For example, that China is making the string of pearl that they are surrounding with ourselves. That, for example, they're making the ports that surrounding us, because so India can counter that with the South China Sea. So economically also we have to make independent, because if we are dependent on the China, so we have to make our own apps. We have to become independent, so that if the war happens, that we have to make a strategy, the how we can make the counter views or counter that China.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashwini. And thank you, Danish sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Any other participant want to ask any question from Mrs. Ashwini? Okay, thank you, Ashwini, for presenting your research here, and that you demonstrated your research work so well, and it also made us understand the importance of the scriptures like Mahabharata and Vedas, and how can we implement these principles into today's world. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Next, I'll request Miss Nagma. Miss Nagma, are you there? Okay, Nagma.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, hello. I'm audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. You can start your
Hello,
presentation,
ma'am.
Nagma. And
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Nagma will be present.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. I want to share my screen, ma'am.
Okay, you may start.
Nagma, now you can share your presentation.
Hello, sir. Is my screen visible? Hello, sir. Is my screen?
Yes, yes.
You are audible, but your screen is not visible here.
Oh.
Your PPT is not been displayed here. We are
Ma'am, can I
PPT.
Ma'am, can I present my paper without PPT, because PPT I'm not able to present?
Yes, yes, yes. You can.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all. My name is Nagma, student of political science from Banaras Hindu University,
Miss
and
Nagma,
today I am going to.
Miss Nagma, I would interrupt you. If you are comfortable, please switch on your camera.
Ma'am, actually, I have network issues, so that's why I'm unable to on my camera, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. You may continue.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So good afternoon to one and all present here. My name is Nagma, student of political science from Banaras Hindu University. And today I'm going to present a research paper on the topic gender and education in Indian thought from the perspective of Pandita Ramabai Saraswati. Pandita Ramabai was one of the greatest women of modern India, exceptionally learned. Ramabai, an outspoken champion of women's rights and social reform, earned the unique distinction of being the sole woman representative in the male-dominated world of gender reform. As Ramabai transgressed the boundaries and contested patriarchy in her educational missionary activities, she understandably became the most controversial upper caste woman of her times, and hence was consciously erased from the modern history for a long period. Now, let's see her life, work, and philosophy. Ramabai was born to a liberal Brahmin Pandit in 1858, which means she was saved from the two curses, that is the lack of education and the child marriage. His father used to teach his wife and daughter Sanskrit, which was very unlikely in those times. Ramabai learned Sanskrit and Purans in those hard days, full of suffering and pain. Thus, Ramabai's break with the Brahminism was inevitable, considering the life and the legacy she inherited from her father. After the death of her parents, Ramabai arrived in Kolkata in 1878 at the age of 19. Interestingly, the religious elite of the city warmly welcomed her and encouraged her to study Vedas and Upanishads, despite the prohibition of women to do so. One name in this direction was Keshav Chandra Sen, the supporter of Brahmo Samaj. She impressed the religious elite of the city with her mastery over Sanskrit language and text, and received the title of Pandita, that is scholar, and the Saraswati, that's the goddess of learning. Ramabai soon took up her social reform agenda by traveling widely in Bengal and addressing women on their education and emancipation, drawing heavily on the mythological figures of educated and independent women. She also lamented the violence of colonialism through her very first literary contribution, written as a Sanskrit poem titled Lamentation of a Divine Language, which was submitted to a conference that took place in 1881 in Berlin. She rigorously toiled to expand her intellectual horizon and also lectured widely in public on the subject of emancipation of women, in which she drew references from Hindu scriptures. She completely lost faith in her ancestral religion, and as a mark of rebellion, she married Bipin Bihari Das Medhavi, was from lower caste, that is Shudra. But the cruelty of destiny dawned on Ramabai when she lost her husband within 2 years of marriage and was left alone with a 6-month-old baby, Manorma. She decided to go to Pune, where she plunged herself into work for social reforms and emancipation of women. She came in contact with the members of Pratna Samaj. Her close contact with social reformers like Justice Ranade and his wife, Ramabai, resulted in her very first institutional contribution, and feminist activism to the cause liberating women was in the form of establishing Arya Mahila Samaj in 1882. This organization sought to provide education to women and save them from evil customs such as child marriages. The discourse on social reform was dominated by male patriarch or hegemons, and Ramabai was the sole woman social reformer during this time who aimed to contribute to the Indo-centric reform agenda on women's issues. She wrote a book in Marathi, namely Stri Dharmniti, that is Morals of Women, in 1882, which was her first contribution to feminist thought and discourse. Ramabai was also instrumental in setting up a shelter home for high caste Hindu widows. She added one new discursive terrain to the feminist discourse by appealing to the Hunter Commission of 1882 to provide education and training to women to become teachers and inspectors of schools. She also appealed to the commission to provide training to women to become doctors or medical practitioners, which was crucial for reaching out to women patients in a highly gender-segregated Indian society. The umbrage and agony that Ramabai received from the conservative Hindus from her efforts to emancipate widowed women in India strongly contributed to her decision to leave for England in 1833 to study medicine. Her experiences of this voyage are documented in her own words in Marathi, published as Voyage to England. It is also regarded as the first travelogue written in Marathi. Immediately after reaching England, she earnestly appealed for help in her book written in Marathi, The Cry of Indian Women. This book contained the details of Indian women's operation through early marriages, marital harassment, desertion by the husband, and widowhood. She also made an appeal on behalf of the Arya Mahila Samaj for a widow home in India. In September 1883, Ramabai and her daughter Manorma Both were baptized as Mary Rama Bai and Manorma Mary Medhavi by the Anglican Church at Vintage. After staying for about 3 years in England, she went to the USA in 1886, and here she raised funds for the Hindu widows under the aegis of Ramabai Association of Boston, and also in 1887 she published the high caste Hindu woman known as the India's Feminist Manifesto, which fiercely criticizes the dehumanizing condition of Indian women sacrificed by orthodoxy, scriptures, and rituals. Ramabai also worked on a Marathi book titled The People of United States. She tried to highlight the importance of social movements and civil society in changing the society for better. After returning from her sojourn in America, Ramabai was driven by activism and wanted to translate this into an institutionalized act. In 1889, Sharda Sadan, home of the goddess of learning, a home for especially widows and also for unmarried girls and day scholars, was set up in Chowpatty in Mumbai. Later, in 1899, she shifted the Sadan to Khergaon, a place near Pune, and it was renamed as Ramabai Mukti Mission. She was awarded Kesari Hind Gold Medal by the British government in 1919 for her distinguished service to the Indian education system. Now let's see her critique of patriarchy. The reform movement of those times focused on the caste and gender issues. Gender issues had become the preoccupation of the upper caste, whose women were the most oppressed. She connected the teachings of the ancient literature with the inferior status of women in society. Patriarchal ideology of the society placed women within the domestic sphere in the role of mother, wife, and sister, according to her sexual, reproductive, and homemaking roles. In this caste-ridden patriarchal society, the highest status for a woman was that of a Saubhagyavati and a mother of sons rather than daughters. A widow had the lowest status, especially a child widow. Ramabai's study of Upanishads, Manusmriti, and the Vedas made her realize how the caste, the Hindu Shastras, and the society or the social customs help patriarchy to not only thrive but to grow larger. Now we will see the gender justice and civil rights concepts of Ramabai. Ramabai's hope was that a woman's education would lead to the rejection of Brahmanism and realize the deception of sacred literature. Imparting education to women was thought to be the best remedy of the problems. But Ramabai was aware of the mindset of Indian society as well, which was doubtful of educating women. The few schools that were available as options were often run by missionaries. As a rule, a high caste Hindu women would prefer death than go to such schools where there was fear of losing their caste. She also worked for training women as a medical doctor to say who could not made physician, as I have discussed earlier in my presentation. In the first meeting of the National Congress in Bombay in 1889, she brought to notice the injustice meted to the widows by depriving her of property if she married again. Now let's see the Ramabai's contribution to feminist thought. She is remembered as an indomitable crusader against evil social practices and activists who tried to improve the rest circumstances of women. Indian high caste widows were a classic trope for whom she worked all her life. Widows in Indian society were subjected to dehumanizing treatment and an inferior status which was sanctified by scriptures, rituals, and sacred texts. Ramabai argued for rescuing these women from these appalling domestic conditions and situating them in the public sphere through education, vocational training, and economics. Book, The High Caste Hindu Women, is a very important point of reference to understand the despicable condition of high caste widows in India. vivid analysis, and unforgiving the critique of the crippling Hindu socio-religious order was Ramabai's contribution to concretize the feminist theoretical debate in Indian context. She became the voice of millions of marginalized women of India. Her ideas aided to understand the structural, emotional, and intellectual marginalization of women that was prevalent in India for a very long time. Equality between sexes was the only logical solution to remove gender injustice, according to Ramabai. She became a staunch supporter of marriage by choice and late marriages. Similar focus Ramabai's endeavor was women education, for she resolutely believed that women's education can free from the cage of patriarchy and religious orthodoxy. Ramabai's Mukti Sadan is a living example of rejection of caste discrimination and gender discrimination. Her articulation of women's causes and concern, and particularly Hindu widows' passionate pursuit to fight for women's education and institutional response to fight for women's socio-economic emancipation is etched forever in the history of feminist thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nagma, for bringing us and enlightening us about the role of Pandita Ramabai Saraswati in shaping the Indian education system, and especially her work and role for the development of the education of Indian women. So thank you so much, Ms. Nagma.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Now I invite Mr. Nachiket B. Paratkar. Are you present? Mr. Nachiket, are you present? Next, Miss Zuberia Noman Khan, are you there? Miss Zuberia, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, Miss Zuberia would be speaking on reflecting on the past, envisioning the future, the evolution of gender studies in India. Miss Zuberia, you can start.
Thank you. Am I audible? Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon to all and all present here, and sorry for any inconvenience caused by my voice. I've been having a sore throat. And I would like to take a minute to acknowledge that this paper is a joint paper written by me along with Mr. Simon Lalduma. The title of the paper is Reflecting on the Past, Envisioning the Future, the Evolution of Gender Studies in India. The aim of this paper is to present a comprehensive overview of the evolution of gender studies in India, a field that has emerged as a critical lens throughout which we examine and understand the nature of Indian society in context of women. This paper also explores the span of colonial era to the present day, tracing how gender studies in India has been shaped by historical, social, and intellectual forces. Additionally, it also looks into the complex journey of the field and the local realities, creating an engaged and deeply, which is globally engaged and deeply rooted in the Indian context. The importance of examining the interplay between the global knowledge system and local context cannot be overstated, as Indian gender studies have both drawn and contributed to the global feminist discourse. However, this engagement has been not been without challenges. Indian scholars have critically adapted the Western feminist theories, and molded it into the Indian concept, developing frameworks and addressing the unique intersection of gender with class, caste, region, religion, and in our society. This adaptation and innovation highlights the dynamic nature of knowledge production in the field of gender studies. The center of discussion is the role played by the scholars, institutions, and activists shaping the trajectory of gender studies in India. The aim is to foster a critical reflection on the past, present, and the future of gender studies in India by understanding the journey so far from the margins to the center of the academic discourses. Now, going back to the historical context, the root of gender studies in India can be traced back to the colonial era and nationalist movement. This period profoundly shaped the discourse of gender studies in India. So, the British colonialism introduced the Western notion of gender, which often clashed with the gender we understand in the indigenous sense. This British also introduced legal reforms that affects women rights and also which serves as a justification for colonial rule, portraying Indian women as a victim in need of saving. This created a reactive nationalism which idealized the traditional Indian womanhood. This complex negotiation of women's role in society have also given an edge for women's political participation and education. This the tension of modern and tradition in gender relation became the central theme of Indian feminist thought, which we can see in the work of Tarabai Shinde as well as Pandita Ramabai. And after the anti-colonial struggle, there is an emergence of women leaders which use Indian womanhood as a symbol of resistance. This historical background influenced the development of gender studies in India. So it is safe to say that the discourse have been shaped by the external influence as well as the internal resistance of Indian scholars. Now coming to the theoretical framework, it is also the theoretical framework of gender studies have been influenced by the global understanding of gender. So there have been an adoption and adaptation of global theories in Indian context, such as post-colonial feminism, which is particularly influenced by, you know, to critique the Western feminism assumptions and also understand the effect of colonialism on gender relations in the society. The concept of intersectionality, which originated from the Black feminist perspective, also uh, played an important role in understanding the complex complex intersection of gender, caste, class, and religion in Indian context, which provides more nuanced understanding of power structure and oppression. Moreover, there was a development of Indian specific frameworks such as the uh, uh, the work of Uma Chakravarti, which talks about the intersection of caste with gender, which in the work of Uma Chakravarti, she demonstrate how patriarchal structure in India are intertwined with the caste hierarchy, and this scholarship have actually paved the way for a more holistic understanding of gender studies in India. Moreover, however, there has been theories and defining, gender and in the Indian context, but there also have been a problem and challenges in defining what India's scholarship in gender studies is. Because India is a vast region and there are many linguistic diversities which actually differs the experience and expression of gender from region to region, which became a challenge for the scholars to actually grapple with the development of theoretical discourse. There have always been a constant negotiation between engaging with global dynamics, global academic discourses, and remaining grounded in the local tradition and realities. So there has been an ongoing debate about the role of Western theories in the Indian scholarship and need to development of the indigenous theoretical framework. Despite the challenges, Indian gender studies have emerged as a vibrant field that contributes to the unique perspective to the global feminist discourse. There have been key contributors in the development of the discourse, such as the scholars, academic institution, as well as women's movement and women sorry activist organization. So the scholars like Uma Chakravarti, Kumkum Sangari, Nivedita Menon, Pandita Ramabai have played a very crucial role in understanding and shaping the historicity of the feminism in India and the foundation of gender studies. Alongside with the academic institutions established for the research uh, in the field of gender studies, such as the Center for Women's Development Studies in Delhi, or as well as various women's studies center in the universities. There have been the key themes and issues which the gender studies have been, working on within India is the violence against women. There is intersectionality, women labor and economic rights, as well as media and cultural representation of women, and the stereotypical representation in celebrating the progressive narratives. There have been more emphasis on the LGBTQI plus studies in the Indian context because this theme is a contemporary theme in the gender studies in India as in the field. If we talk about the future direction, there have been several key direction which emerged for the future studies, as I talked about the LGBTQI studies, as well as there have been there is an intersection of climate change, digital divide, as well as examining the intersection with multiple axes of identities such as tribal studies and etc. There has to be also a gap that has to fill, that is the academic and activism. Continuing the academics with activism has been a profound highlight of the uh, gender studies in India, rooted in the women's movement. Now, in conclusion, the evolution of gender studies in India stands as a testament of power of critical inquiry and engaged scholarship. As the field continues to grow and adapt, it holds the potential not only to the only advanced academics knowledge, but also contribute meaningfully to the creation of more just and equitable society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zuberia Noman Khan. Any questions from the participants? Any questions, participants, from Ms. Zuberia? Okay, thank you, Zuberia, for telling us about the evolution of gender studies in India. And you have really done a good research about it and how these gender studies have evolved in India. Thank you so much. Now I invite Jilike Saha. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am audible.
Yes, you are audible. You may start presenting.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one request. It is being raining since morning in my area, so network is
Okay.
very problematic.
Okay.
So I turn my camera off.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. My name is Jalik Shaha, MA in Political Science, Rabindra Bharati University, Kolkata. In my paper title name is Cultural Confluence, Indian Diaspora and Global Identity Formation. And my research objective, the research aims to investigate the role of the Indian diaspora in shaping global identity and cultural exchange. Key objectives include examining how diaspora communities influence their host countries' multicultural landscape, analyzing the transnational flow of cultural practices and values, and understanding the interplay between diaspora and homeland in identity formation. Additionally, the study seeks to explore the impact of digital connectivity on diaspora engagement and contribution in the Indian diaspora to global socio-economic and political arenas. This research will provide the insight into the dynamic processes of cultural confluence and identity formation. So the Indian diaspora, one of the largest and most diverse in the world, has played a significant role in shaping global identity through a unique process of cultural confluence. This diaspora dispersed along continents comprises a multitude of experience, backgrounds, and cultural practices, creating a rich heritage that influences and it influenced by a global framework. This paper explore how to Indian diaspora navigates and contributes to global identity formation through the interplay of cultural rotations and adaptation, transnational networks, and the impact on the both host and home countries. Historically, the migration of Indians began in the colonial era, driven by economic opportunities, labor, later professional pursuit. Today, the Indian diaspora spent multiple generations from early migrants to recent experiments, creating a dynamic and multi-phase community. This community's identity is not a monolithic but rather a hybrid, reflecting the simultaneous presence of Indian cultures, tradition, and the influences of the host countries. A key aspect of the Indian diaspora's contribution to global identity is cultural rotation. Despite geographical diaspora, Indian communities have maintained a strong connection to their heritage through language, religion, festivals, and family values. These cultural rotations serve as a foundation for identity formation, providing a sense of continuity and belonging. However, this is not a static process. Involves continuous negotiation and adaptation to new cultural context. Adaptation and integration into our host societies are equally significant. Members of the Indian diaspora often engage in the process of selective assimilation, where they adopt aspects of the host cultural while preserving core elements of their own. That creates a bicultural or multicultural identity that enriches the cultural landscape of the host country. For instance, India's Bollywood, yoga, and traditional festivals like Diwali have gained a popularity worldwide, becoming part of the global cultural fabric. Transnational networks also play a crucial role in shaping global identity. The Indian diaspora maintains strong ties with India through family collection, cultural exchanges. These networks facilitate a two-way flow of ideas, values, and practices influencing both the diaspora and the home country. The rise of digital communication has further strengthened this connection, enabling a continuous and dynamic exchange that shapes a contemporary global identity. The impact of the Indian diaspora is evident in various domains, including economics, politics, and culture. Diaspora members have established themselves in influential positions globally, contributing to the economic development of the both host and home countries. Politically, they have advocated for policies that reflect their dual identity, promoting multiculturalism and bilateral relations. Culturally, the Indian diaspora has fostered a greater appreciation for a diversity and pluralism. In the Indian diaspora, example, the process of cultural confluence in global identity formation. Through a delicate balance of cultural rotation, adaptation, and transnational networks, the Indian diaspora not only preserves its heritage but also enriches the global cultural landscape, contributing to a more interconnected and inclusive world. This ongoing interplay highlights the dynamic nature of identity in the context of globalization, where the local and the global are interlinked in always. So thank you so much for your patience, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Jilike Saha, for presenting and sharing your views on cultural confluence. So any questions from Ms. Jilike? Participants, if you want to ask any question from her, you can put up your questions. Okay, thank
Ma'am,
you.
ma'am.
Now I request
Okay,
Mr.
thank you, ma'am.
Nachiket. Mr. Nachiket, are you ready for your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Mr. Nachiket will be speaking on Commerce Chronicles, exploring Indian wisdom in economic practices. So you may start, Mr. Nachiket.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah. Can I share my screen? I'm not able to share.
हाँ, बोलिए आप करें.
Okay. Yeah. Um,
Mr. Nachiket, please switch on your camera.
just a second, ma'am.
Miss Aisha Zahir, you please be ready for the next presentation.
Okay. So, very good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Nachiket Paradkar, and my topic is Commerce Chronicles, exploring Indian wisdom in economic practices. So basically, what is IKS? So Indian knowledge system is a
Be
kind
a
of
little
a,
louder.
okay. So Indian knowledge system is a kind of a structure followed by Indian communities to carry forward their traditional knowledge from generation to generation. So basically, my presentation focuses on the practices that Indian communities and Indians followed in trade and commerce. So as we know, that since Harappan times, we have the tradition of trade, international trade. So these are the sails that depicts the Indian presence in the Arabian Sea region. So this is the ancient Silk Route, which helps us to understand basically how Indians had developed various mechanisms to sustain in the international trade structure. Okay. So my question is, if Indians were in commerce, what banking mechanisms they used for ease of doing business? So the presentation focuses on these 4 points. So Indian innovations in history of banking, first was Akshaya Nivi, which is similar to the present FDs, fixed deposits. Then the Roman coins, how the Maharashtrians dealt with the Roman coins, excess of the Roman coins. Then temples work as credit banks, and the hundi, which is kind of the present DDs. Okay. So as we know that the FD is a kind of a fixed deposit which we keep in the bank for a particular time phase. So, and the interest is given for that. So basically, the what we can say the structure which is introduced by the Indians in the ancient times was a Akshaya Nivi. So as the word Akshaya tells us is about the sustainable Nivi, that is the interest. So Akshaya Nivi, that means it was a kind of a permanent FD. So basically in ancient India, we had the tradition of providing donations to the what we can say Buddhist monasteries, temples, etc. So the Shrenis, the guild system, work as the Shreni banks. So as we know that Dhan Paisa Lakshmi Chanchal hote hai. So that's the reason why the Buddhist monasteries advise the donors to deposit the money in the Shreni banks, and then the Shreni banks started providing interest as per the requirement of the monastery. So Shurparak, today known as Nalasopara, was a banking hub. So when any donor or any trade merchant wants to donate money for the Buddhist monastery at Kanheri, which is in present Mumbai. So they were asked to deposit money in the Shreni banks of Shurparak, and then we see that the interest was paid after the regular interval. So it shows the faith on banks rather than rulers in the ancient India. Next is the gift of Rome to the Maharashtrians. So this is a Roman coin which was found during an excavation at Ter, which is in the present Maharashtra. So the Maharashtrians developed a jewelry which is referred as Putaryanchi Mal. So that what we can say shows the prosperous trade relations between South India and the Roman Empire. As we know that we have strict rules and regulations even today about the use of forex in India. So this forex, that is foreign exchange, was not what we can say used uh, in the regular exchange in the local markets, and that's the reason why when it is said that the Roman Empire was in deficit uh, in compared to India when in the context of trade. So the Maharashtrians started developing jewelry out of this excessive Roman coins, and that resulted into birth of Ranchi Mart. Now, as we know that the temples were always the centers of interactions in ancient and medieval times, so temples work as a credit banks. So how, as a credit bank, so the donation which was received from the devotees was channelized as a credit to the overseas merchants. Later on, of course, with the interest, the temple started working on the Annachatras on the market. So at Vijayanagar, when we visit Vijayanagar, so first we come across with the large structures just before the entrance of the temple, which were used as a markets. So temple became the center of religious as well as economic activities in ancient and medieval India. And that was continued for generations to generations till the British rule. Now we have the DDs. So for the DDs, we go to bank and we ask for the specific amount, a kind of a check, which is kind of a written. So in medieval times, we came across with the mechanism called hundi. So it was, of course, a type of cashless transactions. So if you want to take a hundi, you were supposed to approach a pedi or koti, which was a multifunctional medieval bank. So we have the four types of hundis. Darshani hundi, that is, which is similar to the present DD. Then Miti hundi, which was in general in use today. Shahazo hundi, which was a bearer check, and the Zokmi hundi, so roll of bank. So it was kind of a bill of exchange. So in the hundi worked as a check as well as and DD as well as bill of exchange. So interest rate was also levied by the bank on the what we can say the purchaser of hundi. So in this way, we see that the Indians developed various mechanisms and they continued those mechanisms from generation to generation. However, we see that with the advent of British rule, when we stopped endeavoring into international trade, these mechanisms gradually got disappeared from the Indian economic scenario. So this is my research. So because I am a professor of history, I have tried to uh, discuss this topic from the perspective of the economic history of India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nachiket. So one of our faculty members, Dr. Pallavi, have a question for you.
Okay, yeah.
Hello, Nachiket. You presented very well. But I have a question. Why are you saying that people in ancient India or early India have more faith on bank rather than rulers?
Okay, ma'am. So basically, when we talk about the faith on banks rather than rulers, so basically the people rather than what we can say investing on yeah, so faith on the banks. So basically, what I want to highlight here is that the rulers come and go. रूलर आते हैं जाते हैं लेकिन बैंक के ऊपर भरोसा वैसे ही रहता है. So basically in the Kaneri, we have inscriptions of the Shreni banks and the Akshaya Nivis given by the merchant. So that Akshaya, that donation was given in the times of one first dynasty, and that was continued in the another dynasty. So we see that रूलर्स चेंज हुए हैं, लेकिन ये अक्षय निधि का जो डोनेशन है वो चेंज नहीं हुआ है. दैट्स द रीजन व्हाई आई एम सेइंग कि दे हैड मोर फेथ ऑन बैंक्स रादर देन रूलर्स. दैट्स इट.
Do you think rulers are not acting as a bank? This is the reason?
Yes. So basically, I'm not aware about the ancient times, but in the medieval times, we had uh, uh, basically in the Maratha country, we had the what we can say the practice that the if you want to take loan, you can approach the rulers. The rulers used to give you the loans. However, there was no mechanism of deposits. So
Okay.
that's the reason why, yeah. So that's the reason why there was only way to deposit your money was the bank.
Okay. And why temples worked as credit bank? Can you give me an example?
So the excessive the money which was deposited in the temples in the forms of donation. So of course we had to channelize that, and that's the reason why temples started working as a credit bank. So rather than keeping it as a static, what we can say, money resource, it was beneficial for the temples as well to channelize it to maintain the liquidity, and hence they started providing the loans to the overseas merchants. So basically, we have in South Indian temples, we have the inscriptions that the various the Chettiyas and the Chettis who were engaged into the Southeast Asian trade were given loans by the major prominent temples from the uh, Tamil Nadu, basically Shirangam, and then later on the temples from the Hampi, that they were given the loans. They used it as a capital. Of course, the interest was deposited in the bank, in the temples, as what we can say. So this was channelized for the what we can say various temple activities like the Anna Chatra, then for the
Okay,
puja and the
okay. I can
yeah.
understand.
Yes, yes.
Nachikit, submit your papers. Your paper is very good. Your paper have a good information about the ancient and the current commerce. So submit your papers and we will proceed it to in the journal. Okay?
Oh, okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So next, I would invite Miss Aisha Zahir. Miss Aisha Zahir, are you present? Okay. Our next participant is Dr. Nidhi Pathak. She would be speaking on the topic, the psycho-philosophical aspects of yoga. Dr. Nidhi Pathak.
Good afternoon to one all present here. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to present my screen. Ma'am, may I present my screen?
Yes, yes.
On my screen, it is showing that host disabled participant screen sharing.
Now you please start presenting.
Ma'am, it is showing the same.
Is it showing the same thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can start.
Okay.
Please switch on your camera if you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I'm trying. Hello. Can I start now?
Yes, you may please start.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm Dr. Nidhi Pathak, Assistant Professor and Psychological Counselor at SRM University, Delhi NCR Campus, Ghaziabad. The topic of my presentation is the psycho-philosophical aspects of yoga. We all know that yoga is playing a vital role in uh, in treating so many psychological disorders nowadays. If I talk about the meaning of yoga, it is it means yog or jog. It means that the joining of or the binding. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, to bind together or to concentrate. Essentially, however, the word yoga has come to describe a means of unity or a method of discipline to join the body to the mind and together join the self or soul to the union between the individual self and the transactional self. As we know in psychology, we also have described this that we have so many selves. One is individual self, and another is transformational self. And some psychologists have also mentioned that self may be of so many kinds. So, if we talk about the philosophy of our India, our ancient sage known as the father of yoga. He has defined yoga as that which restrains the thought process and makes the mind serene. Patanjali suggested that suggested 8 Yoga Sutras. That Yoga Sutras are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, in which first two Yoga Sutras are used very frequently in our psychological aspects, can be used in our psychological aspects too. The first is that is the first sutra is Niyama. Niyamas are the first sutra is that is Yama. Yama means what we don't have to do. This aspects tell us that in our daily life, which things we should not do. The first thing that is told to us by the Patanjali is ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-harming, living in unity. This non-harming is not only by the uh, physical order, it is also by our साइकोलॉजिकल एंड बाय अवर लिंग्विस्टिक ऑर्डर टू, मतलब मन वचन और कर्म से हमें अहिंसा का पालन करना चाहिए. अगर हम साइकोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट्स में देखें तो भी हम इन चीजों को बहुत अच्छे से फॉलो कर सकते हैं आज की लाइफ में भी. अगर हम किसी को भी हार्म नहीं करते हैं, इवन बाय अवर थॉट्स टू, मतलब हम अपने दिमाग में भी किसी को हार्म करने का विचार नहीं लाते हैं, इट कैन वर्क ऑन अवर पॉजिटिव वेलबींग टू. इवन अगर हम वचन मतलब अगर हम मन बोल्ड भी अगर हम अपनी मतलब आवाज में अपनी वाणी में किसी को परेशान नहीं करते हैं, ऐसे शब्दों का इस्तेमाल नहीं करते हैं जिससे किसी को बुरा लगे, तो ये हमको भी उतना ही अच्छा फील कराता है जितना कि किसी दूसरे को. और कर्म से तो बिल्कुल ही मना किया गया है हमारे एंशियंट फिलोसफी में. द सेकेंड इज सत्य. ट्रुथ मस्ट बी सर्व्ड विद काइंडनेस. इन्होंने बताया है कि जो ट्रुथ है, अगर हम कोई भी इंसान सत्य बोल रहा है और हमेशा सत्य का साथ दे रहा है तो उसे किसी भी तरह के मैनिपुलेशन की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, और ये हमारी पॉजिटिव वेलबींग के लिए बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. सेकंड थर्ड इज आस्ते, दैट इज नॉन स्टीलिंग. Non-stealing, that doesn't mean that you don't steal anything. It means that you should not be interrupt in assembling the physiological things only. Only physiological assembly cannot work on your mental fitness. The third is brahmacharya. That is, you have to follow certain rules uh, before starting your sexual relationships. It doesn't mean that you have to suppress your sexual feelings, but it tells the way or the laws that when you should start your sex life and etc. And when you should stop these type of things. The fourth is tapa. Tapa means practice of yogic efforts. And the next is that is niyam. Niyam is also, there are five niyam that is told there. First is shauch, that is cleanliness, not only cleanliness of our body but the cleanliness of our heart or our feelings also. Second is santosh, and third is tapas, fourth is swadhyay, and fifth is ishwar pranidhan, that is surrendering to the almighty. We should surrender our all the good or bad works to the almighty. If we follow these type of things in our regular life, it can work on our positivity. It can enforce positivity in ourselves. Such as if we are doing something very good, we should not feel proud that I have done this and nobody is able to do this. And if something is gone wrong or we are not able to perform as we expect from ourselves, we should also surrender these type of acts to the almighty too. So in my paper I tried to correlate the physiological aspects of our ancient Vedas and Puranas to the how can we help to foster the mental well-being of our generation, especially to the youth. If we follow these type of philosophical aspects in our daily life, we practice this, it can work on our psychological well-being. In our yoga practices, we do so many physical exercises too, where so many postures that we do in our yoga. It also works on our physical health as well as if we are physically strong and healthy, we can be, it also works on our mental health too. If somebody is depressed, we also suggest him or her that you should go for, you should do some physical exercise. कुछ ऐसा बहुत सारी एक्सरसाइज करो जिससे आपका पसीना निकले, आपके हॉर्मोन्स जो है वो सीक्रेट हो. तो इस तरह की अगर हम एक्सरसाइजेस को करते हैं, योगा के करते हैं, डेली प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, तो सारी की सारी चीजें बहुत अच्छे से वर्क करती हैं. So thank you so much from my side. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Nidhi Pathak, for highlighting the importance of yoga and how can it help the mental well-being of persons. Thank you so much for highlighting the importance of yoga, which is a very essential part of our Indian knowledge system. So thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request Dr. Ilyas Khan. Dr. Ilyas? Do we have Dr. Ilyas Khan with us?
Yes, ma'am. I am here.
Okay, Dr. Ilyas would be speaking on the topic language, contact, and literary traditions in India. You may start.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. My presentation topic is language, contact, and literary traditions in India. There is a content, a brief introduction, language contact, its manifestations, literary traditions in India, and throughout the history, I have taken the 3 or 4 times: ancient, medieval, and colonial and post-independence period in India. And then later we have the linguistic outcomes and in the end conclusion. As India is one of the areas in the world where there is more widespread language contact between different Indian languages, as the language contact in India has not only shaped the country's linguistic situations, but has also influenced its social, cultural, and political scenarios. Literary traditions in India have been shaped by centuries of language contact, which results in rich multilingual and cultural expressions. The interaction among different languages has impacted development of literary forms, genres, themes throughout the Indian history. The factors that brought English speakers to India at the beginning of the 17th century, including the linguistic situation in India prior to the arrival of the British. Then in discussion, the historical events that led to the dissemination of the languages in India through the administrative policies of the East India Company and exchanges between the British and Indians in areas of trade, military, and governance. Now, here is the language contact. What is language contact? Language contact has been studied over 100 years. Many linguists, Whitney in 19th century, Maulvi Abdul Haq in 1915, Edward Sapir, Bloomfield, Hagen, Van Rijk, Hackett, Morasik, Thomason, and Kaufman try to explain the language contact in terms of internal, that is internal linguistic or external linguistic factors. Bloomfield in 1933 and Thomason and Kaufman in 1988 focuses on the significant effects of cultural factors on linguistic borrowing. Their study is considered as aspects of borrowing. In 19th century, before the introduction of the term, the language contact, it is called the mixed languages. And before that, this term has been studied by different scholars as a mixed language. It is mainly through the work of Hagen and Van Rijk that language contact established a new research field in course of the 20th century. Firstly, the focus was mainly on loanwords borrowing because loanwords were prevalent in the languages of the world. Later, Van Rijk, 1953, in his work, The Languages in Contact, Findings and Problems, points out that the fact that words are more frequently borrowed than structural elements and states that the vocabulary of language considerably more loosely structured than its phonemics or its grammar. That is the beyond question the domain of per excellence. William Whitney in 19th century set up a scale on which he ranged the various patterns according to the freedom which they are borrowed. Nouns are most easily borrowed than various other parts of speech, like suffixes or that inflectional than sounds. He did not deny the possibility of borrowing even members of the last two classes, that is inflectional suffixes, but contended that they are unusual and generally secondary to the borrowing of vocabulary items. Edward Sapir in 1921 restated the importance of language contact and its influence in his chapter on how languages influence one another. He cited the evidence of Japanese and Korean studies and noted how Chinese flooded Korean and Japanese with vocabulary and how English borrowed an immense number of words and productive affixes from French. Yet in neither case was the borrowing reciprocated. Attentively, the studying loanwords provides an interesting insight into the history of cultures across the world. In continuation, the Milroy 1997 points out that as for language contact, it is not actually languages that are in contact, but the speakers of the languages. We agree with Milroy that there is a danger in seeing languages as discrete entities independent of speakers, because under this view, the role of speakers in actuating and diffusing language change is being neglected. Most researchers have, however, continued to use the terms borrowing, albeit in slightly differing definitions. In addition, after the pioneering studies of Pfaff and Poplek, a large number of studies focused on code switching. The alternate use of two or more languages in discourse, that is code switching. Many researchers concentrated upon finding criteria to delimit the borrowing from code switching because they felt that the search for constraints on code switching was seriously impeded by the problems involved in distinguishing code switching from borrowing. Linguistic outcomes or the manifestation of language contact. What is borrowing? Loanwords, borrowing or loanwords are the outcome of language contact. It can result from economic and cultural contact between languages, as when a speech community adopts the name for a new invention or concept from another language, that is called the borrowing or loanwords. For example, the train, that is borrowed from English, the station, the internet, the computer, etc. We have almost 17 to 1800 words in Urdu or Hindi languages that are borrowed from English. Cultural borrowing. Cultural borrowings are words that fill gaps in recipient language's store of words because they stand for objects or concepts new to the language's culture. For example, a Merry Christmas is new to the Indian culture, as kerosene or sindoor is new to the Europeans or the Britishers because they don't have the word sindoor. Loan shift. Loan shift refer to the change in the meaning of an established native word to accommodate a new concept acquired from another language. For example, a bijli, we call it the electricity, kala bazaar, black market, etc. In the same way, the loan translation in English, you have, but in your own language, we don't have. Then we translate it into our language. For example, the wristwatch, and you see the person is having the wristwatch, and you call haath ki ghadi, and almira into almari, and telephone, generally we call it the phone or telephone, etc. Blending, a process in which two elements which do not normally co-occur according to the rules of the language. And they come together from two different languages within a single linguistic unit. For example, brunch, edutainment, infotainment, and we have lots of words like this. And one of the most important factor or manifestation, or you can say outcome of language contact is code switching and mixing. Bilingual speakers, often we all Indians are bilingual or multilingual. So they often alternate between the two languages in the same discourse or communication, sometimes even within the same sentence or the same word. This phenomena is called code switching. When you are using at sentence level, it is called code switching. And when you are mixing it in the words or the simple lexical words, then it is called mixing. Although there are some grammatical restrictions on code switchings, the alternation between the two languages is not conventionalized. In code switching or code switching does not mean that there is a mixed code, but speakers produce mixed utterances, including elements from both codes. These are the examples of code mixing. The program बढ़िया रहा, program was good, हमारे department, our departments, छोटा सा break, after break, etc. Now come to the literary traditions in India, that is ancient and classical periods. It starts with the origin of Sanskrit and Prakrit literature. Sanskrit, the classical language of ancient India, boasts a literary heritage, including Vedas, epics like Mahabharata, Ramayana, classical poetry, and drama. During the Maurya and Gupta periods, Prakrit's vernacular language derived from Sanskrit were used extensively for literary and administrative purposes. Jain and Buddhist texts were often composed in Prakrits, reflecting the linguistic diversity of the time. Firstly, the Vedic period, 1500 to 500 BCE, the invasion by Aryans spreads across northern part of India. They first stayed in northern part of India, then moved to the southern India and influenced Indian languages. Indo-Aryan languages spreads across India, influencing Dravidian languages, leading to significant linguistic development of Sanskrit. During this time, the Sanskrit was the only pure prestige language at its peak. In modern times and Gupta times saw the flourishing of Prakrit's evolution of vernacular languages. From vernacular language means a common language or common man language, from Sanskrit and the frequent use of Sanskrit in administration and literature. Concurrently, in southern India, the Dravidian, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam are rich literary traditions and interacted with each other and with northern Indian languages. In the medieval period, the introduction of Persian and Arabic due to the Islamic conquest, Persian became the language of administration and high culture under the Delhi Sultanate and Mughal Empire. This era witnessed the flourishing of Persian literature in India, with poets like Amir Khusro creating works that blended Persian and Indian themes. The emergence of Urdu as a literary language was the direct result of language contact between Persian, Arabic, and local languages. Urdu poetry and prose became prominent with notable works by poets like Mirza Ghalib, Mir, Allama Iqbal, Faiz Ahmad Faiz. Then we have the Bhakti and Sufi literature or Bhakti movement, which started from 8th century to 17th centuries, promoted the use of vernacular languages for the devotional poetry. From the 4th to 8th century, the languages at that time is called the Apabhramsha or the corrupt language. And after the coming of Bhakti and Sufi literature, okay, they also use the vernacular languages for devotional poetry and songs. Bhakti saints like Kabir and Tulsidas wrote in Hindi, while Bulle Shah and Amir Khusro composed in Punjabi and other regional languages. These movements fostered a rich literary tradition that emphasized spiritual themes and the unity of humanity, often transcending linguistic boundaries. Colonial period or the advent of Britishers or Europeans. Post-independence period, India experienced a resurgence of regional literature as states. Writers in regional languages like Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, and others produced significant literary works that reflected contemporary social, political, and cultural issues. The aim of this paper was to present an overview of language contact and literary traditions in India, as language contact is closely related to regional and socio-cultural settings. It has impacted Indian literature effectively. And conclusion, the literary traditions of India have been shaped by frequent language contact, which results in diverse literary heritage from the classical works in Sanskrit and Tamil to the multilingual compositions of the medieval period. And from the colonial eras, English literature to the contemporary world, Indian literature reflects the context of language and cultures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ilyas Khan. Sir, we have a question for you. One of our faculty members, Dr. Javed, wants to ask you a question.
Yes, please.
Such a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
It is worth noting that traditional Indian grammars, particularly of Sanskrit and Tamil, buttressed by solid theoretical frameworks, shed light on enduring questions in ontology and epistemology. Later, when the Western theories came in, naturally they influenced the thinking of scholars, resulting in reconceptualization of the central tenets of the Indian linguistic tradition. The potential applications in the modern era of linguistic insights of the past could be quite significant in the cognitive, computational, and clinical aspects of language. These moves could be viewed as ushering in a paradigm shift in the Indian linguistic thought, especially in the applied fields. What do you think on the linguistic methodological challenges in contemporary research?
In contemporary research, as we are the speaker or native speaker of English, in Urdu and Hindi, and interference of English language, you cannot avoid it. Okay, whenever you are coming with the or encountered with the English language over the using the technology or any kind of things or over the computers, there are many things which you ask and later on, sometimes they are showing the zero results on computers, and there are many challenges. The pattern of the grammar that is established by an Ashtadhyay in Panini in 356. It's very strong pattern, the grammatical pattern or the phonetical pattern, which are very useful for the in today's world.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ilyas.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Pragyan Dangwal. Are you present? Mr. Pragyan, are you there? Pragyan hai jo. Next, we have Dr. Driti Tiwari, Assistant Professor of Faculty of Education, Integral University. Do we have Dr. Driti Tiwari with us? Okay, next we have Mr. Utkarsh Yadav, Research Scholar, Department of Business Administration, University of Lucknow. And Mr. Utkarsh would be speaking on the topic Indian Knowledge System and their contribution to SDG Goal 6. Mr.
Yes,
Utkarsh Yadav?
Utkarsha Yadav.
Okay, you are Utkarsha. Sorry. Utkarsha,
No
you may
problem,
start.
ma'am. Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can share your screen.
Last moment.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Utkarsha Yadav, and I am a research scholar from Department of Business Administration from University of Lucknow. My topic is Indian Knowledge System and their contribution to SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. I would like to start by the words of Mahatma Gandhi. Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not enough to satisfy every man's greeds. My paper examines the age-old practices of water conservation and its contribution to SDG 6. It highlights the various case studies as revival of Johats in Alwar, Rajasthan, led by water conservationist Rajendra Singh, which resulted in rejuvenated rivers and improved groundwater levels. Uh, Community managed step walls in Gujarat demonstrate the contemporary relevance of these traditional systems is in providing water for drinking and irrigation. Traditional water knowledge encompasses the deep understanding that people have of natural processes and the ecological independencies of water systems. This knowledge reflects their connection to the local water systems and land. Incorporating beliefs, senses, and the practices that are integral to the culture. First, I would like to introduce the SDG 6. United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are the universal call to action to end poverty and to protect the planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. The goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation, it emphasizes on importance of ensuring clean water and sanitation for all. And water management in India. So India faces significant challenges related to water scarcity, pollution, and access to safe drinking water. With a rapidly growing population and varying climate conditions, effective water management is essential. The traditional water management practices embedded in the Indian knowledge system provide sustainable solutions that have been proven effective over centuries. Understanding and integrating these practices can play a vital role in understanding the contemporary water issues in achieving SDG 6. Now, Indian knowledge system, I would like to highlight what is Indian knowledge system. It refers to the collective knowledge and practices developed by local communities over generations through direct interaction with the environment. And this system encompasses various domains, including agriculture, medicine, and water management. It is characterized by its ability, sustainability, and community involvement. The objective of my paper is to synthesize the existing literature on the role of Indian knowledge system and its contribution to achieving SDG 6. It aims to highlight the effectiveness of these practices, their cultural significance, and the potential integration into modern water management strategies. So the literature review, I would come to the literature review. The first is women's use of indigenous knowledge for environmental security and sustainable development in the southwest Nigeria. The technique used here was frequencies and presentation content analysis. The finding was that water conservation by communities of Nigeria saves about 60% more than the regular methods. Then the study was conducted in Canada, where the indigenizing water governance in Canada. Here, the semi-structured interviews were conducted, and it studies how historical, social, and political context to water-related governance challenges facing indigenous people of Canada. Water governance challenges explored through discussions on treaty rights and jurisdictional fragmentation, which at times impedes those rights. And the third is role of ruler identity in traditional. Sorry. Role of rural identity in traditional agricultural landscape maintenance, the story of post-doctoral communist country. Here the technique uses correlation and regression. The finding is that the research showed that rural identity communicated in the knowledge and the perception of local land users is essential in local agriculture, landscape maintenance, and sustainable rural development. The fourth study here is environmental education in India, an approach to sustainable development. Here, the content analysis was used, and the study showed that various steps has been taken for imparting environmental education to communities and educational institutes at globally and nationally by government and non-government NGOs. Students have become much adapt to such information related to their surroundings. So I've done the literature review of around. It would take a lot of time in reading all these. I will share the slides. I've done the literature review of 41 papers, and this is a pie graph showing the contributions of indigenous knowledge in achieving of SDGs. Now let us come to global and Indian context. Globally, over 2 billion people lack to safe drinking water, and about 4.5 billion lack access lacked safely managed sanitation services. In India, the situation is critical with many regions facing severe water scarcity and pollution. The traditional water management practices offer sustainable solutions to these challenges, emphasizing the conservation and community involvement in adapting to local conditions. These are some of the traditional water management practices which are prevalent in India. The step walls, which are being used in Gujarat and Rajasthan, and these tanks are used in Rajasthan. Johats are used in Rajasthan. These are the earthen check dams built to capture the store rainwater. They are constructed across small streams or in areas where water naturally accumulates, enhancing the groundwater recharge and maintaining the soil moisture. I've done the several case studies and the examples of these revival of Johats in Rajasthan and the community managed step wells in Gujarat. Now coming to the alignment with the SDG 6 targets. Water quality. The first is water quality improvement. Traditional practices such as rainwater harvesting through tankas and johars contribute to improved water quality by reducing the reliance on polluted uh, surface water sources and enhancing the groundwater recharge. Water use efficiency. Practices like step wells and johars are designed to maximize water use efficiency, ensuring that water is available even in dry seasons and minimize the wastage. The community participation, traditional water management practices are often community driven, promoting the collective responsibility and participation in water management. This community involvement is crucial for the sustainability of water resources and aligns with the goals of SDG 6. Now, coming to the challenges, the growing challenges indicate that the world is nearly at a critical point regarding freshwater accessibility. The water sector is vital to global sustainability efforts, essential for the future of humanity and the planet. Up till 2022, water-related issues were among the top 5 global risks identified by WHO and the WEF. In 2018, water was seen as the most likely factor to cause a global crisis within the next decade. The sustainable solutions are not adopted and integrated by the water industry. It poses a serious existential threat to humanity and other living organisms. Urbanization and climate change and the need for regular maintenance pose significant challenges to traditional water management practices. The loss of traditional knowledge due to changing lifestyles and modern development also threatens their sustainability. Now, coming to the comparative analysis, traditional versus modern practices. Traditional practices are often more sustainable and environmentally friendly compared to modern water management methods, which are resource intensive and less adaptable to local conditions. The traditional methods emphasize on conservation and community involvement, leading to long-term sustainability. Traditional practices have a lower environmental footprint as they use natural materials and processes that align with the local ecosystem. Modern methods, while technologically advanced, can sometimes lead to environmental degradation if not managed properly. Now, coming to the conclusion, traditional water management practices in India significantly contribute to achieving SDG 6. These practices enhance the water availability, improve quality, and promoting community participation, aligning with the targets of SDG 6. Integrating the traditional practices with modern systems can provide sustainable solutions to contemporary water challenges, ensuring the clean water and sanitation for all. Integrating traditional practices into modern management framework supported by the appropriate policies and community engagement can enhance water security and sustainability. Preserving traditional knowledge is crucial for achieving long-term water management goals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Utkarsha. You have really highlighted the importance of the traditional methods of conserving water, and especially the how can we improve the quality of water, and also the importance of community participation if we have to achieve the goals of the sustainable development. Thank you so much, Utkarsha. Now we have Dr. Ya Raguntala Suresh Babu for the next presentation. Are you present there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
So, Dr. Ya Raguntala Suresh Babu is
Yeah,
from
Dr. Yadav Suresh
Presidency
Babu.
University.
Yeah, let me share my presentation. As a host disabled participant screen sharing, can you allow me to share this PPT? Yeah. I think, yeah, it's visible for all of you, I guess. Um, so, good afternoon, the chair and my colleagues and other participants. Thank you for being here. And the title is, I'm sort of trying to compare both Machiavelli and Kautilya's Arthashastra. The reason is, I have been teaching Machiavelli for almost 15 years. I admire him and a lot of love for Machiavelli. But for the first time today, slightly, I was trying to think that why not Kautilya? I mean, the comparison, there is this, see these historical comparisons I have been hearing from my childhood, from the school days. Kautilya, seen as the Indian Machiavelli, um, Ashoka the Great, Indian Constantine, Chandragupta the Maurya, Indian Alexander, Samudragupta, Indian Napoleon, Tagore, Indian Shakespeare, Swami Vivekananda, Indian Socrates, Aryabhatta, Indian Pythagoras, Kalidas, Indian work. So like that, you see, C.V. Raman, Indian Newton. So these Indian icons, especially the Kautilya, there is, if you see the timeline, uh, there is a huge difference, almost 2 millenniums. It's no comparison. Machiavelli wrote very recently the book Prince, but Kautilya wrote long, much before. But we say, I think that is very problematic to say that Kautilya as Indian Machiavelli. Instead, they should say Machiavelli as Indian Kautilya. That's what I would prefer to say. The reason is if you see the timeline from the 350 BC somewhere, and there is a huge difference. So today I'm trying to see why the comparison is wrong, and also why, I mean, how the Kautilya Arthashastra goes much and wider beyond the Machiavelli's Prince. So this is the uh, introduction to the Kautilya. So born in 350, he is also known as a Chanakya, also known as a Vishnugupta. So he is also advisor to Chandragupta Maurya. He is also very instrumental in overthrowing the Nanda dynasty. Nanda dynasty equally powerful. At that point of time, throwing the Nanda dynasty away and establishing Mauryan Empire is a really risky task. Though that risky task is easily done because of the advice by the Chanakya to the Chandragupta Maurya. One of the greatest mentors, if you take the greatest mentors in the history, Chanakya, or what we call Kautilya, is one of the topmost mentors in the world. There is Aristotle, Alexander the Great, and he conquered the world. Aristotle is a great mentor. But for me, Chanakya is great because there were powerful kings, and then establishing Mauryan kingdom and expanding it in terms of power, prestige, name, welfare, and all that. So it's so beautiful and so brilliant. His brain is so brilliant because his ideas and the Arthashastra was basically lost its all the things. Somewhere it rediscovered very lately, and for the first time, Shama Shastri was the one who done the translation in 1904, and now we have this version in Bengali, Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam. So the Kautilya Arthashastra now being translated into all languages in India because it has much relevance, and the importance to it is very wider, and the scope is very huge. Now look at the Machiavelli. Machiavelli, born in Italy, and he's also great writer. And the beauty of the both these people, Machiavelli wrote Prince book to sort of job seeking. You wanted a job, so he wanted to admire somebody, the Medici family. So he wrote that book, and he was exiled. The Medici family couldn't much I mean, it's not much use to them. But then both Machiavelli and Kautilya focused on the power. Power is the center. Machiavelli only focused on power. That's the huge. There are 27 chapters, I guess, and each chapter trying to say how to conquer, how to establish, how to stabilize the power, how to expand the power, and all that. But Kautilya goes beyond this the power logic and just try to write a lot of things that I'm going to deal a few, not everything, but a few things for the sake of my own thing. Now, the historical context. The Arthashastra was written during the period Mauryan Empire, and this period saw the political unification, especially there is this there were more than 320 kingdoms in India, even towards during the Britishers' rule. So India was not a small. Many small states were there, but during the Mauryan period, India was united, expanded properly, and when the Alexander conquered came into India, that also helped Indians to look for beyond the borders of the India and see how to communicate with the rest of the world and what are the diplomatic relations one need to have, what are the strategies, tactics. So all that, Machiavelli wrote these things recently, but oh, something notification has come on my screen. Sorry. So Machiavelli wrote these things in the 15th century, but then Kautilya wrote all these diplomatic strategies, tactics, long, much before uh, 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 it is written. The Arthashastra also very powerful big book because Arthashastra also drawn the Indian traditions like Vedas, Dharma Shastras. He has taken some things from those books which were not so popular now anyway. So it covers various military strategy and warfare techniques and intelligence gathering. Now we talk about the cyber crime, cyber security, artificial intelligence, and all that. But then these are some of these things. The spy system. It was already there.
Yes.
So a lot of things were there, and this book is so great actually. Now talking about some of the similarities between these two people. One is real politics and the pragmatism. Kautilya in Arthashastra, he described this kind of is emphasizing the realism in terms of the governance and advocating the policies and to ensure the stability and prosperity of the state, even if they involve morally ambitious actions. Whereas the Machiavelli pragmatism, similarly, the prince is renowned for it. As I told you, prince means first four chapters he talk about what are the prince qualities. Then later on he goes on talking about the qualities of the prince. And then finally towards the end of it is trying to give some comparisons and telling the Italy people how to unify the Italy. So the target for Machiavelli is unification of Italy, how to unite the Italy, how to bring the glory back to the country. So then, but here the story is different. With Kautilya, beyond power, there is people. There is this something called welfare, common welfare. So a lot of things are written here, but rulers must be willing to act immorally when necessary to maintain their power. But then, at the end of the day, protection of the states and people is very crucial here for Kautilya. But for Machiavelli, he says very clearly, what suits a prince may not suit the people. At the same time, what suits the people may not suit the ruler. This is why people, the rulers always they promise, but they don't deliver the promises because if they promise, they are at the losing end. That is why they always make sure that people are the sort of ignorant. So we promise them and then we ignore those promises. We don't deliver. I think most people follow the Machiavelli, the rulers I'm talking about, but not the Kautilya. If they have to follow the Kautilya, you have to deliver it. So this is where the real politic and the pragmatism come into play. And then ethics and morality. For Kautilya, while he advocates the pragmatic governance, he acknowledges the importance of the dharma. What is the duty of the king? In the early morning, Vice Chancellor sir was telling dharma is so crucial for the Indian kings. Especially in the Artha Shastra says, the happiness of the people is the happiness of the king. But for Machiavelli, it is a reverse. It is reverse. Don't Machiavelli says, I think one of the chapters I remember, he says, do not touch the property of the common people. Do not touch the women of the common people when you are in the different kingdoms. But do not focus on developing their their safety or welfare and all that. Ultimately, as a prince, your goal is to prioritize your power and stabilize your power and maintain the power. So this is where the both coming to the different logic. And then Kautilya follow the Matsya, which suggests that in the absence of the strong ruler, chaos will ensure the strong prey on the weak. Therefore, a ruler must be consolidate power and exercise authority decisively. So, but this is also true in the modern world also, the Matsya. And the Machiavelli prince emphasizes the need for a ruler to appear virtuous while being willing to act. So he says, according to time, you have to change. Sometimes you have to act ruthlessly. Sometimes you need to be a beast. Sometimes you need to be generous. So the difference between the Kautilya and Machiavelli when it comes to the power and authority, one says, you have to consolidate. The other one says you have to be ruthless beast. And then governance and administration. There are chapters which are written in the Arthashastra which clearly defines this various strategies and the foreign relations, well organized administrative system, etc., etc. But in Machiavelli, Prince focuses only how to acquire power, how to maintain power, the military forces, etc., etc. Now, I'm also trying to observe how to go beyond the Machiavelli. One is dharma. He says, you see here, always a king should always be active in promoting the protection and welfare of the people. See, this is why I like Kautilya, because these things are not present in the prince. Because prince, he always talk about the prince qualities. I mean, what are the qualities of the prince? How to develop different qualities for different times and etc. etc. But Machiavelli never talk about the promoting the common welfare, which is not there. So, but this book Arthashastra presented. People need to be happy. People need to be developed. So you have to develop you have to bring the welfare policies, welfare schemes. Make sure that your people are happy, at least within the kingdom. Arthashastra talk about welfare within the state and good relations with the neighbor states. But in both cases, Machiavelli talk about you need to be strong. A ruler must do whatever it takes to make sure that he's in the power. Okay. And then statecraft. Arthashastra also provides an extensive and detailed guide to the governance covering a wide range of topics, including the economic policy, etc., etc. He says the ultimate source of the prosperity of the kingdom is its treasury. So we talk about the economy. If economy is weak, king cannot rule the kingdom more time. So it's important to make sure that you are economically, at least the monetary policies, the money wise, a king need to be very strong. And the treasury is to be accumulated through efficient management. So very brilliant. He gives various methods there, and especially the enforcement of law. So this is there in the chapter 2 in the Arthashastra. But whereas the Machiavelli, the prince, on the other hand, is more focused on the personal conduct or strategies. So again, I do not see what are the monetary any line written for the money or economic strategies or economic policies, etc., etc. But one thing I think I remember there is this one analogy that he is trying to give, that is the river analogy in the Prince. He says that fortune is like a raising river, so the ruler must be prepared. Otherwise, when the rain comes, the water goes wherever it want to go. If the ruler prepare a canal, the water properly go according to your plan. So I think that one chapter is slightly relevant to its probably economic policies of the Machiavelli. Otherwise, Machiavelli completely ignorant about economic policies. But Kautilya goes. I think his philosophy is much superior than Machiavelli in terms of the economy and law and order and welfare. So, yeah, this is what in the inaugural session our VC was trying to address. In the happiness of his subjects lies the king's happiness, in their welfare, his welfare. So this is brilliant and beautiful. And but in Prince, he advises ruler to maintain the power through fear than love. Look at some of the rulers across the world presently. So this is the Machiavellian principle. But Kautilya says, make sure your people are happy. But Machiavelli says, fear then love. Why? He says, love is a temporary emotion. It can be vanished. But fear, when a ruler make sure that people are fearful, the fear can take them to the till the death. So fear is stronger emotion than love. So if you have to prefer one of these two, he says, go for fear, not love. So there is this total hell and heaven difference here, even about welfare of the people and prosperity of the people. And planning and sustainable governments, he says, the king shall employ his time in the forenoon in receiving the secret information gathered by his spies, and in the afternoon in the attending the accounts of his income and expenditure. See, in terms of the economy, the kind of the information gathering or diplomatic relations now are very crucial. Now we are hearing about the phone tapping and all these things, vagara, vagara, this leak, that leak. So recently, NEET papers were leaked. So for all such kind of important things, there is this system called a spy in the Mauryan Empire under the Chandragupta Maurya. So it was well implemented. So everything, the information gathered very easily, and some crucial, important information is protected. That's how the kingdoms were always, because the reputation of the country is always depends on the kind of news that they carry to the other countries. Say, for example, if this country, this state is bad because of so and so incident, if some fake news goes viral, the reputation of the country gets the damage. So you need to save such things. So this system is also very crucial, which Machiavelli is, I think, hardly focus on, and diplomacy and foreign relations. So Kautilya again much superior, because look at this statement from the book 7 chapter 1 in the Arthashastra, which says peace, war, staying quiet, marching, seeking shelter, dual policy. These 6 methods are employed to in foreign policy, and especially the peace. Machiavelli hardly touches on the idea of peace. He says, I think one of the chapters I remember, I can recollect. He says, when your enemy is stronger, you try to maintain some peace until you become the strong. Then once you become strong, you attack. Otherwise, make friendship with your enemies. But Kautilya is different here. He is trying to employ all kinds of strategies. One is peace. Ultimately, for any kingdom, more than war, peace is very crucial, because peace makes people happy, not wars. War is always costly. War is always costly because we lose monetary manpower. Look at the World War I, World War II, the loss that happened to the world. So ultimately, whenever there is a war, we always seek for the peace. So Kautilya focused more on peace. So that's the another crucial difference. This is why I believe Kautilya's philosophy is much interesting and more relevant and more useful actually. So yeah, I think it's summary. So in concluding, I can say that both books are important. I admire both the people definitely, but Kautilya's work emerges as a superior. This is what my firm belief. I still strongly believe that he is much superior because of his balanced approach in terms of ethical governance and comprehensive statecraft and welfare policies. This is the reason. I mean, two books. One book is comprehensively written. One book is written based on one goal. The Prince book is only political power, but Arthashastra goes much beyond it. Now, I think we Indians, I think better not to call Kautilya as Indian Machiavelli. Instead, the other way around. So we have to take these ideas further and make. I think bring the Kautilya into limelight again. His ideas, because these ideas are very relevant even today. So thus, Kautilya's Arthashastra provides a more robust and ethically sound framework for effective political leadership. Thank you. I think now questions, I can invite the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Yaraguntala, for sharing this kind of knowledge with us. Any questions from the participants? So no questions are there? Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this kind of good research work with us and comparing the literature and thoughts of Kautilya and Machiavelli with us. That was really thought-provoking. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So now we have reached the conclusion of this session. So technical session 1 of day 1 of the national seminar has come to an end, where we have really gone through so many research papers of many speakers, and we have really, I think, and we have been enlightened with all your paperwork. So a very good effort from all of you. We will be now meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. for technical session for session 1 of day 2 of the national seminar. So thank you from this side. Thank you all the faculty members for your constant support. So thank you all of you. Participants, you are requested to be present tomorrow. All of you are requested to be present tomorrow. That is, attendance is mandatory for all. So this is an urge, a request to be please present tomorrow and in all the sessions.